Hi friends, welcome back to China Freedom File. Today I want to focus on a very important topic called the freedom of press, or press freedom. Of course, living in China, you would not experience anything even close to any freedom press. All the media, you talk about newspapers, you talk about radio stations, you talk about TV stations. Now you talk about digital media, online, from TikTok to Tencent's WeChat, and everything is totally controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. And the Chinese Communist Party is actually, at least inside China, is not shining. It's not actually shy of telling their intention of control or total control over the media. And over everything, as President Xi Jinping infamously said, by quoting actually Chairman Mao, said, 东西南北中，工农商学兵，党要管一切的。The translation is East, West, North, and South, and Middle, and workers, and peasants, businessmen or business, and students, and military. The party should control all. So they're not even shy away and telling what it is. So that's why I would say it's very laughable. Recently, when the Trump administration decides to ban the Twitter, I'm sorry, not Twitter, decide to ban TikTok, American version of the Chinese called ByteDance, a company basically make this brand TikTok in the U.S. and other countries, and WeChat, and this very popular social media kind of communication tool, like Twitter, from the U.S. market. This is a bold move, and I think it's the right move. But the Chinese Communist Party, in its propaganda, denouncing the Trump administration, denouncing this move as a violation of freedom of press, and denouncing as a violation of international trade or business rules. When was the last time the Chinese Communist Party had shown any respect on freedom of press? And when the Chinese Communist Party banned the Twitter, banned Facebook, and banned Google, and banned Gmail, and ban all the U.S. social media, not only U.S., but any apps from the free world, the Chinese Communist Party have been banning them since day one. So when was the last time they have complained, or any one of them have complained, there is no press freedom in China? That's really, really laughable. And now, all of a sudden, it sounded like the Communist Party's interest in press freedom in the United States of America. So folks, we know all the time that this is just a Communist Party's game. I mean, even denouncing the U.S. ban is part of the Communist Party's propaganda game. I mean, they have within the Communist Party, there are several prominent departments. One is called the Department of Propaganda of the Chinese Communist Party, with billions of dollars the budget, directly funded, of course, by the Chinese Communist Party. And they also have set up another specific budget called 大外宣. 大外宣 means grand overseas propaganda. Grand overseas propaganda. According to the BBC report, at least $10 billion in that budget alone to do propaganda in the free world market. That's why you have seen from Washington Post to New York Times to even Wall Street Journal and Reuters, I mean AP, they were all co-opted with this part of the budget of grand overseas propaganda. They were putting in the name of advertisement. You will see every morning in Washington, D.C., and those subscribers of Washington Post would receive insert in their Washington Post newspaper with the full, several pages of so-called news from China. The news from China is People's Daily, it's China Daily, it's all propaganda. It painted a very fake news picture of how beautiful the Chinese government is and how democratic the Chinese Communist Party is, and how lovely and free kind of life the Chinese 1.4 billion Chinese citizens are enjoying. There's nothing about labor camp. There's nothing about the 1 million Uyghurs in the concentration camp. There's nothing about hundreds of thousands of Chinese Protestants, Christians, and Catholics are in the labor camp or arbitrary arrest. And there's nothing about hundreds of thousands of churches being banned. There's nothing, certainly, about the forced demolition of crosses of hundreds of thousands of churches. There's certainly nothing about the world's largest Buddhist religious schools in Tibet and in Qinghai province are controlled and headmastered by the Communist Party secretary in that province. And Dalai Lama's photo is being put on the ground, and all the Tibetan monks have to step on and trash it. And if you pledge your allegiance to His Holiness Dalai Lama, and then that's a crime, subject for arrest. And there's nothing, of course, to report about those desperate Tibetan monks and nuns set fire on themselves, self-immolated, and burned themselves to death. It's nearly 200 already. And the Chinese Communist regime, the only thing they mentioned was, this shows Dalai Lama instigated this, and their disregard about life. And come on, have you seen anything that shows the Communist Party have any respect, the dignity of life after at least 100 30 to more, 130 million to 300 million lives, babies' lives, were totally destroyed by force. It's called forced abortion. And all their parents had to suffer under this evil family planning system, undergoing the forced sterilization and forced abortion. Is that a respect of life, including Christians, including, those other religious believers? And there's a documented campaign of gendercide and genocide in the Uyghur Autonomous Region in Xinjiang. And the Communist Party are forcing these Uyghur girls and women to undergo this forced sterilization and try to terminate this race. So these are all Communist Party's propaganda. And yet we have seen in the West, just in the United States, those WeChat and those TikTok, over 100 million TikTok users. Most of them are a younger generation of American children. And they took advantage of, the Communist Party took advantage of the freedom press in the free world. And basically using this app, social media app, while they are banning the Americans' freedom of enterprise, and banning Twitter, banning Facebook, and banning the YouTube, and banning the Gmail, and banning Google altogether. Nobody in China is allowed, is having access to use this. But the Communist Party's, social media, WeChat and TikTok are having a free reign anywhere in the United States with the pure propaganda. But so to ban them, it's not only just the freedom press, actually it's the national security threat. And come on, those parents in America or Europe, when your children are using and downloading this WeChat, this TikTok on their cell phone, you are opening your family's privacy. Wherever your children is walking and using this TikTok, and the Chinese Communist Party's over 500,000 internet police, and then plus over 580,000 so-called the 10 cents patriotic kind of inspectors, because every tweet, every message they kind of using this platform, they will receive 10 cents. That's why it's called 10 cents army. 10 cents propaganda army directly employed by the Chinese Communist Party's internet management branch or offices, from the central government to all the way to the local township. So when you are having dinner on your dinner table in Iowa, in New Hampshire, in New York City, in the state of Texas, in Houston, and certainly in the West Coast from San Francisco to Los Angeles. And the WeChat net police is watching you. They can turn on the WeChat account as a uncle, Chinese uncle, basically to listen to every conversation, wherever you put your phone. And I knew actually one of the Chinese guy who even showed me how the Chinese police, the net police, can turn on your phone. Even after you kind of turn off your phone in the US, they can remotely turn on and off if you download that app called WeChat or TikTok. I mean, they're not even hiding. We have seen the documents, on the Chinese own internet, their website from the TikTok parent company called ByteDance, and from WeChat, from the Tencent corporation enlisted in the U.S. New York Stock Exchange and raising money. You can see from their own website, and the Communist Party branches are installed, are operating and publicly, and with tens of hundreds and some of Communist Party members. Actually, TikTok in one recruit message to recruit workers specifically mentioned, said the Communist Party members are preferred. The Communist Party member are receiving even a preferential treatment and to work in TikTok company. So you think the communism ideology would not impact their decision making? That's a joke. The founder of Alibaba, Jack Ma, himself is a Communist Party member, according to the party chapter, the bylaws, and he has the pledge. He has to swear in his first and most loyal pledge and adherence to the Chinese Communist Party's interest. And of course, the Chinese national security law specifically, very clearly stated that every Chinese citizen, individual or corporations, have to work and cooperate closely with the Chinese state security apparatus when the national security issue is addressed. That's why Hong Kong, August 10th, one of the Hong Kong's heroes, really a champion for freedom press, and my friend, and whose name is Jamie Lai. Jamie Lai, the founder of Next Digital Media, the founder of maybe the only left independent newspaper called Apple Daily, and the real democracy leader in Hong Kong on August 10th was arrested, and not only himself was arrested. The Communist Party tried to make sure that their action under the name of so-called the Hong Kong National Security Law that took effect on July 1st, his two sons were also arrested. And then over 200 secret police raided the headquarters of Apple Daily and the Next Digital Media. He's a billionaire, and he himself is a story of Communist Party's evil, and his own really kind of hard-working ethics. He's a dedicated Catholic believer, and when he was 7 years old, his father could not really bear the life under communist. He, of course, he was born in Guangdong, in Guangzhou city, Guangdong province, next to Hong Kong. So like many hundreds of thousands Guangdong citizens, in the 1960s, his father basically escaped to Hong Kong when Jimmy Lai was 7 years old. And then, just because of that, his mother, Jimmy Lai's mother, was taken to the re-education through labor camp. So this 7-year-old boy has to live with his younger sister and another disabled elder sister. And he has a few other elder brother and sister. They all kind of left home because there's no food. There's nothing left at home. And basically his neighborhood, and with a hardworking Jimmy Lai kind of nurturing the family. And then at the age of 12 years old, he could not really make a living and under that hardship. So he smuggled himself into Macau and Hong Kong and basically working illegally in that black market as a cheap labor, 12 years old. And then, gradually he kind of started his life and accumulate some money purely from his labor and establish his own company in Hong Kong. And in 1990s, he started a business, fashion clothes business, and made a fortune. And thankfully, under the British rule of law and freedom environment. And of course, in 1989, when the students' movement started in Beijing, in China, and the Jimmy Lai was deeply impacted, and he just cherished the freedom that he had. So he supported many students leaders who escaped to Hong Kong before Hong Kong was handed over. So 1995, he started an independent newspaper called Apple Daily, and he became a billionaire. And you would think, he can just really chose to enjoy his life like many other billionaires. And he is a British citizen. He's also a permanent resident in Taiwan. And he can really choose to stay in New York, in London, or any other cities in the world to enjoy a retirement life. And yet he chose to stay in Hong Kong to continue advocacy for freedom and democracy. And last year, in 2019, he came to the U.S. Facing really the termination of Hong Kong freedom, and facing the enormous, of course, persecution by the Chinese Communist Party's secret police in Hong Kong, violently cracking down peaceful freedom protesters. And Vice President Mike Pence and Secretary Mike Pompeo both invited him to the White House and the State Department for discussions, for advocacy effort. And now, August 10th, he was charged under the new national security law as the collusion with foreign forces. Collusion with foreign forces. Under this national security law, he would be sentenced to a minimum 3 years to life in prison. Jimmy Lai, of course, is in the eyes of the Chinese Communist Party is the number one, undoubtedly, enemy for the Communist Party's brutality and dictatorship in Hong Kong. So this is the end, really, for press freedom in Hong Kong. Period. He is the most high-profile arrested figure so far. And of course, another younger generation leader, Agnes Cho, with whom I was privileged meeting and this fellowship together when we were in Washington, D.C., when she and several other a younger generation in their 20s traveled to D.C. to also advocate for freedom and democracy in Hong Kong. So she was also reportedly arrested. And we have seen the Chinese Communist Party disqualify 12 Hong Kong democracy legislature candidates on behalf of the Democratic coalition. 12 of them were disqualified. 5 of them actually are still serving in the current Hong Kong Legislative Council. And they were disqualified to run, supposedly to run for the campaign in September. But even that, the Hong Kong Legislative Council, the Hong Kong Chief Executive, Carrie Lam, declared no more elections for 1 year in the name of COVID-19. Okay, so folks, we really need to pray and pray harder for the 7 million Hong Kong's residents, and their freedom are really in danger. So as the Bible tells us that what's the Lord requires of us, and as Micah 6 verse 8 says, "O man, what is good, what the Lord requires of thee, but to act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God." Thank you, and let's continue to push and continue to advocate and walk with our persecuted brothers and sisters in Hong Kong. And may God continue to bless all of you.
Order your copy of this program from the GLC bookstore by calling the numbers or visiting the website on your screen. Please include the program number when ordering.